Hello and welcome back to the Rangers News YouTube channel. My name is Cameron Willis and I'm joined by Mr. Jordan Carlisle as we look ahead to this week's massive match with Slavia Prague in the Europa League. So obviously in the last 16, Rangers have a very good chance of reaching the quarterfinals of the tournament. But before we get stuck in, if you're watching this and you regularly watch the videos and you're not yet a subscriber, or if you're watching it for the first time, please click subscribe, please click like, and support the channel, comment, and get involved with the discussion below. But without further ado, let's get stuck into this, Jordan. So Rangers, Slavia Prague. We hold a small advantage in terms of away goals, which means that if we manage to keep a clean sheet, we will progress. How do you think our chances are of progression from this tie?
I'm looking forward to it, as I think has been the case for every sort of European game this year, because you go into I don't think there really is a level of fear anymore with that might change if Rangers go deeper into the competition and there's some bigger, really big teams to come up against. But I mean, I think it's a case of knowing at the minute that if Rangers really turn up on the day, that they should be fine. And I think that is just the case again here as it has been for basically every game so far, and they've not really disappointed at any stage in the competition, still unbeaten. And I think, it was a great result last week. I think we were talking about it a bit before in another video, but I think the more you think about it, it's such a good result, based on the fact that it was coming after the title celebrations, and the fact that there was a real need to refocus and how difficult that would have been going into that game to not lose it. I know that you basically come back to Ibrox, keep a clean sheet, you're through. If you win the game in 90 minutes, you're through. So I think Rangers are in a really good position and have plenty to enough quality to get over the line.
I think when you look at that last match, Rangers obviously didn't particularly start well. Slavia had a big engine, kind of moving the ball side to side, trying to work an opening against Rangers, but we managed to kind of hold on in that early stages, and the goal came from a set piece and some great work for Yanis Hadji, and it dragged us back into the match. And I think getting to half time in the second half, I think Rangers were probably the better side. But going into this game, do you expect Rangers to be that second half in Prague Rangers for the full 90 minutes? And if we can reach that level, do you think that we can overcome them?
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason this time around for a slow start. I don't think that'll be, I think we've sort of come out and talked about that. Scott Arfield was in the press conference, in the pre-match press conference, saying that the biggest surprise in the away leg was how poorly we started. So I think that's going to be a key talking point in terms of team meetings and stuff since then and before this game, to make sure that doesn't happen again. And I think they've shown that maybe with the Antwerp game stuff coming out of the blocks fast, it's definitely possible. And another team is maybe gonna take a little while to settle into games, especially if you're away from home, unfamiliar settings and that sort of stuff. So it's about striking early doors and trying to sort of stamp your authority in the game. I think Arfield also said that it's key to sort of own the ball and have possession, and really control that in the middle. And I think you could see that they had good technical quality, and you want to keep guys like Stanchu away from it and get players like Davis on it. And that's going to be key, sort of to controlling the game and controlling the tie, because keeping a clean sheet. I think the thing is that it would be foolhardy to come roaring out the blocks, because they don't need to. The key is, I think, to keep it tight early doors. Look to play like the home team, but to really keep it sort of locked down at the back. And then as the game progresses, that they're going to have to come out. If you keep it that way and you frustrate them, they're going to have to come out, and then Rangers will get so much quality to hit them when that happens.
I think, and reading in the build-up, and even last week, comments that Steven Gerrard made regarding like dreaming to go as far as you can in the competition, and even the kind of resilience that they showed in last week's match. There's a real feeling amongst the players that they want to do well in this competition. So to me, it would be a big surprise if we didn't show up and at least slug it out and go toe-to-toe or put in a shift in this match. And I think in spells we've seen that Slavia were a good team, and the word team I think is important. They were a good 11. They moved together. They knew their roles, and similar like the Rangers, they looked as if they were well kind of trained and full of energy. And he touched on Stanchu there. I think another one of the standout players was maybe the midfielder Provod. I think is for in this match, is it key for Rangers to get on top of those players, or should we just be focusing on what we do?
I think in any sort of situation going into the game, it's important that Rangers concentrate on themselves, but and then let guys like Davis and stuff to sort of dictate the tempo and that sort of thing. But I think it also is, you need to identify key players in the opposition, and that's an advantage you take having already played the same team once. They're now coming to your patch. You know where their danger players are, and if you look at their results recently, they have Slavia have obviously been brilliant, particularly in domestic competition. But it's Stanchu who's getting the goals, whether that's from penalties or open play. He's shown an ability to shoot and score from distance. He's going to need to be closed down effectively. Rangers now know, if they didn't know before the first leg, that you can't give him time and space. And I think with the Provod midfield, he's also a guy with a good passing range and a guy who could make it into a game that Rangers don't want it to be, in terms of having that technical quality to move the ball and keep hold of it. So, I think those are two key guys. You've obviously got Sima as well, who's been raved about in the Czech Republic. I didn't think he showed really a huge amount in that first leg. He had a couple of really wild efforts at goal. Obviously, it's a big game for him. I think they're saying they plucked him from the third division over there, and now he's obviously had a lot of big clubs and interested in him and showing interest. So it's a big stage for him, and I don't think he really quite sort of stepped up in the first leg. That might change this time around. So yeah, there's certainly players that you need to keep an eye on, but also I think it's been the message since the start of the season that Rangers need to play their game, and it's such a well-honed, well-drilled unit in the style of play, that I think the players will all go out knowing the exact roles that they need to sort of perform for everything to go well.
Yeah, I think ahead of the match, Steven Gerrard was talking. Says Ryan Jack is going to be out. James Tavernier is obviously a doubt as well. I mean, Jack, I think in particular, because we knew about Tavernier, but Jack in particular is a big blow. Might be out at the weekend as well. But even with missing these players, who do you think are they going to be the key men for Rangers in this match?
Yeah, I mean, Tav certainly is a massive loss. Jack is one where, yes, he's a very big player and can make Rangers play a lot better when he's playing, but he's also not guaranteed pick given it who Rangers have, the other options Rangers have in the middle. So yeah, Morelos is, Mr. Europa League, King of the Europa League. I think he's a really big player for Rangers in terms of when they're looking to have that. If Rangers can dominate possession, he's the guy who's gonna be there to try and finish stuff off, and he's done it so many times before on big European nights, and this is another one where Rangers are wanting to take a step further than they've been before. He's a key man to that. He's also he's in brilliant form at the minute, so I think he'll fancy himself to score. Davis, as I mentioned before, in terms of dictating the possession, I think he's going to be massive. McGregor, he's probably going to be called upon at some stage. I think that's one thing that was said, that defenders need to get tighter. Things need to be sharpened up a little bit more as a unit. Obviously, if you've got Patterson as well, and at right back, it's not quite as strong as you would hope the defense to be, regardless of how well he's done so far. So even if Rangers do defend really well against a good team, it's likely they're going to have a couple of shots off, a couple of decent opportunities. So McGregor keeping his form going and probably Goulton in the middle, so right through the spine of the team. Really important senior players there that need to do a job. What about you? What do you think?
I'd agree with that. I think it's that. I mean, there are four names, maybe less so Morelos because he's been in and out of the team this season, but they're McGregor, Goldson, Davis in particular, probably 3 of the 4 alongside Tavernier, who you've been mentioning for Player of the Year. Morelos is obviously the main man in Europe, so all eyes will be on him once again. But it's interesting that you were talking about them having shots at goal and the role of McGregor and stuff. And I just think it's an interesting dynamic that Rangers are welcoming the team to Ibrox. Now, obviously, we conceded goals against Benfica and we conceded goals against Standard, but do you not back us to at least keep a clean sheet in this match, or do you think that will be difficult to do?
I do think it will be difficult. It's also just there just seems to be a pattern in Rangers games this year that they are relatively open when it comes to these games, and I think it's a case of sort of Rangers and the coaching staff backing the players to outscore the opposition, rather than it being a total, you can't really count in the defence, but Rangers are still scoring goals, so you can get it through. I think there have been some errors and some sort of things that haven't really went Rangers' way in terms of defensively, whereas they have in the Premiership. But it's also it's just a case of extra quality, isn't it? So I don't think Rangers can go into the game thinking, I think Rangers need to score. I think going into because obviously a nil would be enough, but I think Rangers need to have a more positive attitude than that. It's a positive attitude if you back yourself to keep a clean sheet against any team, but there needs to be I don't think Rangers, it'd be a dangerous game if Rangers go into it assuming that's a a really strong possibility, because it only takes a minute, doesn't it, across the and I think you could see with Benfica that looked like Rangers were coasting that game, and then it was bang bang, they're back into it, and it's 2 minutes of quality. So it's a case of trying to have a level of control of the game and trying to make it comfortable. So when it comes to the last 10 minutes, there's no sort of nail biting need to hold on. And I think sometimes Rangers have been brilliant without the crowd, but that's where the crowd would help. If there's a nail biting sort of last 10 minutes, if Rangers need to get a goal, that sort of stuff is where a crowd can roll you on, whereas they're not going to have that sort of advantage. So I think it's about being as professional as possible, as ruthless in front of goal. There's no point in, or if Rangers miss 3-4 chances in the first half, that could come back to bite them later on once Slavia gets settled in. So it's about being, I think, as efficient as possible and getting it over the line. But it's so doable. Like it's you look at their record in the league and everything, you think it's brilliant. But like so is Rangers. Rangers have been flawless all year, and this is bar that St Mirren League Cup debacle, it's been brilliant, and it's so within the realms of possibility to get through here.
I mean, I completely agree. I don't think Rangers are quite there with the intention. I mean, they've been solid defensively all season, and I think that'll continue. That'll maybe form the foundation, and it will be a challenge if this is an open match, because it's a little bit different, right? Because it's been consistently compared to them going to Leicester City, where they obviously won 2-0 in the last game. Now, I heard a few people talking, saying how did they manage to beat Leicester City, etc. But in that match, they can sit back and try and grab a goal, because as soon as they score, Leicester need to score 2, and it doesn't matter if they score in the 70th minute or the 80th minute. In fact, that's probably more. It's probably better for them if that was to happen as the game went on. Whereas in this match, they're going to have to come out and they're going to have to find a way. I mean, they can still be patient, because it is only one goal that they generally need. But I just think it's a little bit of a different dynamic for them. And I think that you're right. I think that Rangers will play Rangers' way. I think that Rangers will come here and they won't change their style or go defensive or trying to hold on to anything. I think that we'll play with that identity that's defined Steven Gerrard's tenure. And I mean, it is within our grasp. It's right there. Like, I think there may be a few fans just a wee bit of overconfidence. Maybe I still think it's going to be a very, very tough tie. But I'm back in this Rangers side to go there, to go to Ibrox, sorry, and come out with a place in the last 8. But It's going to be tough, but I just as well. It's a wee bit of a later kick off. And the last one, it's weird when it kicks off at 6 because you're finished at 8, and you're like, it feels as if you've used so much energy up for
It's
2 hours.
proper. 8 o'clock kickoff's proper though, and like 7:45, 8 o'clock. That's what you're actually after. Isn't it?
It's better, so I'm excited for that as well. But yeah, I back this here to do it, but I think it might be a little bit more open perhaps in the first leg, simply because I think Slavia, who fancy themselves, they fancy themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the media fancy them. They back themselves. The manager backs them. They think that they can kind of rub shoulders with the best in Europe, and they're not going to be coming.
Why would they not either? You know what I mean? They've sort of swept aside everything domestically, then beaten a team. I think Leicester sitting third or fourth, aren't in the Premier League. So it's not as if it's like, totally misplaced.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think, an acceptance that people who've watched Rangers all season know how much, like, what this team's capable of, and that if I think it's a great tie because when it comes out the hat, it's maybe less glamorous than other ones, but it's just two teams who have done so well in their respective leagues and stuff this year. That's such a good matchup there. Two less heralded leagues, the best sides from those, like undisputed best sides, going head to head and sort of seeing how they match up.
I'm excited. I mean, I just hope it'll be a spectacle. Rangers in Europe's always fun, man. You touched on Ibrox not having fans. It would be it's definitely. I mean, it's just turning into a football cliche, almost talking about fans amid this COVID-19 pandemic. But yeah, we'll go into the team next. Then obviously the main man, Allan McGregor's likely to start in goal, and then we've touched on James Tavernier being out. So Nathan Patterson's likely to come in again. Do you think that he'll cope, or do you think this is a match where they'll really put him under pressure, Slavia?
No, I think it is. I think they'll definitely like to put him under pressure. It'd be naive not to, and I think it's just such an obvious thing to target when you've got Barisic. Croatia's left back on one side, guy plays for Sweden. Potentially as one of the centre backs, and Goldson, who's been an absolute rock. The avenue, the route that you should be going down is the guy who hasn't even played 10 senior games yet. I think he's proven that he's certainly got the heart for it, doesn't he? And he's brilliant going forward. There are questions defensively, and I think even going back to last season, the thing is, it's kind of hard to quantify before the last couple of games how much he's developed in the space of a year because we hadn't seen much of him. But certainly last year, Graham Murray after that Atletico Madrid game was talking about how, the way that managers and coaches like to come out and sort of protect the players a little bit. He essentially just came flat out and said, look, it's a big learning experience for him. He was done today. He couldn't really handle. He's really caught out on a couple of occasions by Atletico Madrid's players. So that's in a youth league match, and now we're a year on, and it's the last 16 second leg. It's a big step up from a level that last year he was caught out a little bit at. But I mean, the guy, he looks to have filled out a good bit. He's clearly benefited from playing against top players in training every day. So I think there's been a couple of signs of positional things and a little bit of hesitancy on the ball when he's in his own half. Everything going forward looks brilliant. But it's a massive test for him. I think he'll be full of confidence. He seems to be a guy who backs himself as well and doesn't have any issues in that regard. So I think he'll be keen to make make his mark as well, because this is going to be this and the Old Firm are probably his last two chances really of the season. Because he's going to be out, he's going to get that ban, which is going to be, you would think, significant. And regardless, Tav's going to be back after that. So these are his sort of big chances to stake a claim ahead of next season. And it's a massive test. Hard to say how it's going to go, but I mean, he's capable of doing a good job, I think.
Yeah, I think they tried to target him in the last match as well. But I mean, I back him to come through it. I think that he plays with a real confidence, and he understands what it means and what's on the line. And whilst there's been a few times maybe he's misplaced a pass or he's kind of been caught out, it's never ever been too drastic. And I think that I think it's a big game for him. Are you backing Hollander to play beside Goldson? I'd say so after the first leg. But is Balogun fit?
Yeah, he is back fit, but I mean, it's just that would be an unnecessary change. I think when you've already got the situation where right back is sort of open, and before Balogun picked up the knock, he was also playing right back, so you've had that stability for a while with Hollander and Goldson. So yeah, I think you stick with that for now. Certainly, there'll be rotation there when it comes to the post split stuff. I think, especially with the league decided. But yeah, I think it's the sensible call to go with the two of them, which is they've worked very, very well in Europe over the last couple of seasons. With Hollander's Benfica thing where he sort of lost control of his legs for the vast
That'll be like
majority of that
forever
game.
held against him, man. That was like his worst match in a Rangers jersey, and then no one's ever forgot it.
Well, see that I think it's kind of a positive, isn't it? Because it was such an anomaly. Whereas maybe if it was a John Flanagan or something like that, it all sort of merges
He's
into
still
one for a
unbeaten
few people.
he's still unbeaten in the league, Hollander,
Which is crazy
I
stuff.
mean, he had a big injury last season, obviously. I mean, it just shows you like how rubbish we were in the second half of last season. And Hollander was out since the Betfred Cup final, so perhaps he was maybe more influence then. And we'd spent £3 million on him in the summer, and we only got half a season out of him. So, I rate him, as you well know, and I think that he'll start alongside Hollander, Barisic on the left, midfield. Obviously, Ryan Jack's out.
Whipping constant balls.
But in midfield, you've got no Ryan Jack, so it makes it perhaps a little bit easier. I think that we'd both be in agreement that Stephen Davis and Glenn Kamara are going to start. So it just becomes into that third midfielder, which obviously went for Joe Aribo in Prague. I think you're back in Scott Arfield to take his place in Glasgow.
Yeah, I was surprised that Arfield didn't play in Prague. I think he's pretty much an ever present in European games, especially for those away ones, because we've talked about it time and time again. It brings the work ethic, the tenacity, the ability to link between midfield and attack, but also just a little bit. It just seems a little bit more solid with him in there. So I was really surprised to see him not play. But I think they might change that now, going into this second leg, given how the tie sits as well. There's no need to be gung ho, and the fact that he did the press on Wednesday morning suggests that to me that he's going to come in the team. That's not always an exact science. We've seen in the past. There was a really weird one when Andy Halliday came in to do it once. And it was like, oh, he's getting his first game in ages, and then he didn't play. It was just standard.
I probably think it's 3 times out of 4 that happens. That the person plays. Normally they play, but it's not uncommon that they don't. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm the same as you. I was surprised after didn't start. I had him when we did the preview for the game. I was backing him to start just because he gives you that kind of industriousness, and I think maybe this will be the game that he comes in, but it's so difficult to drop Joe Aribo just now, and I think Steven Gerrard's finding that because of the form that he's kind of come into, and then that obviously creates a dilemma further up the pitch because again I think that we both back Ryan Kent and Alfredo Morelos to start, and then it's just that right hand side berth where in the last match Yanis Hadji started there and. Whilst he did so well to set up Hollander, I actually thought Hadji was having a bit of a poor game up until that. So if it was me, I think that I would go Joe Aribo there because not only does in comparison to Hadji, it gives you that kind of close control and that dribbling and stuff, but it gives you like a hold up. So if you get the ball out to the right, you can trust Aribo kind of with that to hold the ball up and find a bit of space and a bit of room to manoeuvre in. And I just think that might suit this a little bit more. But what do you think? Do you think it'll be Aribo or Hadji?
No, I think I agree with you. I think it'll be Aribo, or certainly I think that would be the best team. I think that's Arfield talked in the presser about how Rangers need to own the ball to win the game. I think that's the best team in terms of holding on to the ball that Rangers could put out, and dominate possession and really controlling things, because you have Arfield, who, when he's actually playing in midfield, is relatively conservative, isn't he? Because you're looking at Davis as the guy who's going to play the sort of searching passes, and Kamara, who has that sort of, uses his body really well, loves those feints to open up space. But I think Arfield's passing is relatively straightforward in the middle normally, and then it's the link up play when he goes forward. And Aribo, like the guys, we're maybe talking about the last 10 minutes here, but I can't get over how good he is holding on to the ball.
Yeah.
In those sorts of situations, and how good he is as a dribbler. Hadji is more of he creates a lot. His assist numbers are really good. But with that, with any player, whether it's Hadji, whether it's Bruno Fernandes at United, there's a lot of things that don't go right. In between those, the pass accuracy is a lot lower than maybe with other players. And I think he's the sort of guy where if Rangers need a goal, or if the game's finally poised and Gerrard feels comfortable as they start to come out, he's the guy who can pick off spaces and try and play other players in. But I think Aribo is probably a better option to start. And I just think that seems like such a solid team. That front three of Hadji, Morelos, and Kent have done really well, look really sharp at other times. But yeah, I just think that it's so solid that team, if you have both Arfield and Aribo in it, I think that's probably the best option, certainly to start the game.
No, I'd agree with you. I think that's a solid unit. I think that's a reliable team. I think that's the team to get us to the quarterfinal of the Europa League. So that's the big question. Do you think that we'll make it, and give us put your neck in the line and give us a score prediction as well?
I don't know how this still, how I don't prepare for this every time that we do it. Every time we do a preview video, say, let's give us a score at the end, and I'm always plucking it from thin air. I'm going to go 3-1.
3-1.
Based on that, 10 seconds of delay and to give himself time. 3-1.
I think that we'll keep a clean sheet. I'm going to say 2-0 to Rangers. I mean, I know I said it's going to be difficult, and I think Rangers are going to try and impose themselves and control the match. But I think as well, Slavia Prague liked to kind of dramatically throw themselves in the deck, and I can see a little bit of kind of maybe bitterness or kind of gamesmanship in the match as well as it goes on. And I think maybe Rangers got a wee bit of responsibility to manage that. But sometimes when teams play like that, you can use it in your favour. And I just think that they're there to frustrate, and I think they think they're a better team than us. And I think that we can get under their skin just by being ourselves and playing ourselves and being responsible. And I think with that 11, we can be. But having said that, Gerrard probably play somebody else. But for me, I'll say 2-0. I think Rangers. I don't think it'll be comfortable, and I think it'll be tight, but I think that we'll manage the goals. Let's say we get one early on and one later in the match. But yeah, anything else you want to add before the game?
No, I don't think so. But I just think it's such a better chance. Obviously, after the first leg, because it was dead last year. But I mean, just this tie in general, and it's such a better chance to go this far. Where Rangers might be denied this next season. Obviously we're talking about Champions League and all that, but in terms of draws you get in qualifiers and all that, the whole way through these competitions, it could be more difficult, or things might not go Rangers' way in years to come. But they've been brilliant. It's about capitalising on it, I think, when you're there. And see, getting to the quarterfinals of this tournament and being in with some of the names there, that's the sort of stuff that people have been looking for a long time. Beating Porto in a group stage, massive result, and other things like that. Those comebacks against Braga. But see if you get yourself in hats, and the more drawn out UEFA draws at Neon that they do, and they talk for ages beforehand, and then they go Rangers.
Like random obscure footballers from the noughties. I think Manish done around the 30. Hakim Yakin did the last 16. But by the way, I almost signed for Rangers. I remember that happening when I was younger. I remember like the headlines splashed across back pages, but it ended up not happening. But
you could play a bit like
I think we will have a random European ex-footballer from the noughties pluck their name out of a hat come Friday morning, which is such an exciting prospect. I think out of all the ties, the Rangers Slavia tie and the AC Milan Man United tie are probably the only ones which aren't settled. But the rest of them are all at 2-0 and 3-0, and it's a long way back for a lot of the teams. But yeah, so be interesting. But some of the names are huge, and just we can't get ahead of ourselves. So we'll just enjoy this game first, and hopefully Rangers kind of turn up and do us proud. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, please click like. Please leave a comment below. Please subscribe to the channel. Let's hope that when we come back on Friday, everybody's smiling and Rangers are in the hat for the quarterfinals. Thank you so much for tuning in. On the Rangers.